is the owner and general manager of the Dallas Cowboys. We bring to you Jerry Jones. Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, Kevin, Mike. It's great to be on with you, boy. Great to get this season going, and got a lot of promise here, a lot of things to be excited about, and but it is good to be on with you guys.
And when you talk about things to be excited about, I know you know how Cowboys Nation works, and there was a lot of pep in people's steps when they heard that Jason Peters was coming for a visit. Can you tell us anything about how those visits and or physical negotiation, anything you can tell us about that?
Well, he's here getting physicals. We all know him. He was a really outstanding Arkansas player, and we're very familiar with him. I've really watched his career and the entire time he's been in the NFL, and we're going to sit down here. I'll meet with him in just a few minutes, and we'll sit down here and see how he's doing, how his physicals have been, and go from there. But I don't have any more to talk about there.
So, Jerry, when it comes to this team, I think for the first time in a while, Dallas Cowboy fans feel the strength of the team is the defense. Can you talk about the strength of your team from your perspective?
Well, I think that's I think you could say that. I still don't in any way want to diminish the skill that we have with our quarterback and our running game and running backs and frankly our receivers. And I know with the loss of Amari, we've had some people say, well, it looks to me like you're a little less there. What I think we have in general is that we have more value on the field than we've had in the last several years. I think there is a lot of value in having this defense be what it can be to support what is obviously a coordinated, complementary game to do it right. And so bottom line is, I think we've managed since last year to have more value out there for what we're spending.
Now, when you talk about that value, at least part of that plays into the salary cap, and we all know that. How do you feel like your team generally does with the salary cap, and do you feel like the money that y'all have available for this season could be used if another player comes along?
But if you don't use it this season, it's there for your use, so to speak, for the next season and the next season. As a matter of fact, we have already extended players to get room into this season, and we've extended. In other words, we've made available dollars on the credit card. And that's preferable not to do that. You'd like to basically hold back on extending or hold back on redoing contracts and let those really get in sync with the years that you had possibly intended or wanted on the contract. Now, it is impossible to have a discussion on the nuances of cap and rules and the nuances of who you can keep on your roster, who you can't at this time. And frankly, you have to sit down, and anybody does, and spend a lot of time going over it. I like where we are, though. I think we have done outstanding. But I want to make sure everybody understands we have planned to do what we are doing. And it's very important that we look and plan ahead. And we do have, I think, in our receiving corps, and we do have in our pressure on defense, we do have some outstanding value there that I think more so than any years past.
Do you feel like that plan has worked out? Because this is a name that obviously comes up all the time. With Ezekiel Elliott, some people would argue that perhaps if the contract hadn't been kind of pushed down the line just a little bit more with the guaranteed money, that he would not be on this team this year. How viable do you think he still is as a player?
I'm smiling because I can remember it was just months ago when people were talking about how important it was to get him signed. How could you not realize that what he is for the team? And, of course, then when you get him signed, then you move on. And, of course, what does happen is you have to pay the fiddler. And when you pay the fiddler, you pay him dollars that you're not paying to a guard, or pay him dollars that you're not paying to a defensive end, or pay him dollars that you're not paying to a receiver. And so the facts are there's no free lunch. Every dollar you spend on a player is a dollar you can spend someplace else. So what is the goal here is to get the most value for those dollars that are out there. And you've heard me say that recently, and I'm dwelling on it a lot in the off season, availability. And we've taken a look at where we've been. We've taken a look at where we've been recently or where we are right now and said we can do a better job than this. We can get more for our dollar, more for that. Those dollars are just like if you were in college, the dollars are the equivalent of scholarships. And those dollars get you players. You can give it all to one player, and when you do, you don't have available to go to the other player. The more you pay the quarterback, the teams that pay the big ticket on the quarterback, they have to sacrifice other places. That's just the game. That's a big nuanced part of the game. It's a very competitive part. But I like where we are. We've unquestionably done some changing this year.
Jerry,
looking in the future. Looking in the future will be better for it.
Jerry, next Sunday you get to take on Tom Brady for the second time, opening up the season. Last year after they'd won the Super Bowl. I've been watching Tom Brady and Man in the Arena. He's obviously the greatest quarterback of all time. He probably scares you a little bit. I was wondering, out of all these years in the NFL, what player has scared you the most to go against?
Oh, I think, frankly, Favre, back when Favre could basically, he could mess up a defensive scheme, mess up the plan just by his impromptu play. That would be what I'd call a scary player. We played some teams that have, especially this Donald of the Rams. I think he's a player that gives you pause. Any of those guys that you have to single out and you have to actually adjust your game plan for the offensive coordinator when he's playing a defense, and you have to account for him, that changes your offense up. There are players like that. I think we've got one or maybe two. And, boy, that can make a difference, and that can tilt the edge your way. But I think, generally speaking, you say, well, but don't you want to run the offense that you're comfortable with? The idea that we're going to run it, and we're going to run it in spite of what they stack up there. I'm a little dubious of that. I think you've got to make adjustments. And you've got to have the flexibility in your preparation, which is spring and your fall camps, to be in a position to make adjustments in November and December.
Also, Tom Brady talked about in the Man in the Arena suppressing success. He said this came from Bill Belichick, and whether they'd won 21 games in a row or whatever they'd done, Bill Belichick would make sure he suppressed that success, that the next game is the next game, and they won, obviously, a whole bunch of Super Bowls doing that. I know your team in general, since Troy Aikman has left, hasn't been able to repeat as a division champ. What is going to be the difference this year that for the first time in a long time you guys can be the division champs back-to-back years?
Well, I think this, you said back-to-back. I started to say we have had division championships, and we've won a lot of games. However, we have not been to and won the big game, the Super Bowl. I've gotten, on a personal basis, I've been a part of 3. The Cowboys have been a part of 5. They're hard to get, and we all know that. You have to. Coming in second or third doesn't count in this business. It gives you a little better taste in your mouth to stay in the playoffs longer. But really what you need to do is be betting it to try to get to that Super Bowl. No one would deny that I'm a risk taker. No one. I take risk, and I do it every day in my life. And so there's a proper time to take some risk. We have taken them, and we will take them. They didn't pay off for us to the tune of getting us a Super Bowl. I hope that some of the risks that I take in the future That coupled with some good decisions on the cap, get some players out here, get numbers of players so that we can have a more balanced team, so that we can get more out of our salary cap dollar. I hope those kinds of changes will result in a change from where we've been, and that's not getting to the Super Bowl. But I do that every day in my life.
Do you feel like some of the risks y'all have taken football-wise that maybe didn't pay off is what led to those changes you were just talking about and the way you handle the cap?
No. Really, you should recognize, and if you will, honor your bad decisions. And you should learn from them. And all of that is cliches almost, but it is a real fact. And I don't know of anybody that has ever gotten all the decisions right. And that's trite. It's usually not who makes the right decision. It's more about when you've made a decision, if it's a bad one, cut it off quick. But if you've got a good one, let it run. God didn't make it so that anybody could just make all the right decisions. That's not the way it works.
Now, when you were on with Sean and RJ on Tuesday, you said if this was a Super Bowl, you envisioned Michael Gallup playing. I'm curious, with that in mind, do y'all think maybe week 2, maybe week 3 is when we might see him? Do you have a more specific timeline at all?
Okay, he's coming off of his injury and is in really outstanding position right now. The reason that I said if this were a Super Bowl is because if he gets it nicked up or gets hurt, I think everybody understands it maybe, but the writer that wrote that, if he gets hurt in a Super Bowl, you've got an entire off season.
Yeah.
You've got an entire off season to come back. If you're doing it the first game of a long season, 20 games plus maybe to count going through all the playoff games and everything else, maybe as many as 20 games. If you do that and you take that risk on the first game of the year, that's stupid. You can't take that risk. But if this were the last game of the year and it was for all the marbles, we'd take that risk. That's pretty easy to understand.
What do you think?
He's capable of going out. He's capable of going out and playing and catching the pass. But you just risk more now than if you waited a couple of games.
What do you think are, and that I understand what you're saying, absolutely. What do you think are realistic expectations for Tyler Smith and then maybe the offensive line across the board, where obviously you're well aware, fans and myself, we have some concerns?
Well, I think Tyler's going to get man. What does that mean? He's going to get his man. And I think he's going to do a good job of it. Is he not going to get him all the time? Yes. We need to have somebody there to help him out. We need to keep some out that'll cut some out of the offense. You need to cut it out a little bit and help him out. But I think he'll get man. I think he will get better. I think that's the nature of the position in football. He's got everything we hoped and more when we drafted him. It's exactly what we drafted him for, to come in and be the left tackle. And so he's had a really outstanding camp. All of the things are there. Do I wish we had Tyron? Yes. Will we get Tyron back? Likely. But in the meantime, he's going to come in and he's going to get a Harvard doctor's degree in playing left tackle between now and then. Will we pay some price for it? Yes. Can we win with him paying a price? I think so, yes.
When it comes to your defense, Micah Parsons is just being talked about not only locally but nationally as one of the best players in the game. How have you seen him grow from the end of last season right before we start this year?
Well, I see him really I don't know that it's different, but I see in him a work ethic. I see in him a professional attitude about down to business. It's like Dak has to some degree, and it's to every day get better. And you put that with talent, and it's going to be it's really an amazing combination. But he's very aware, not just on the field but off the field. So he's got a lot of great attributes. We've got a great team in my mind. I want to say great. We've got great supporting cast around him that are going to give us an opportunity to have a really outstanding defense. And you can do this thing with the emphasis on defense. That doesn't mean I just want to keep that number 4 standing, keep him healthy, keep us in the game, have us a good plan, and then give us a chance to make a field goal against Tampa rather than miss it like we did last year.
And y'all are confident that Brett Maher is the guy to make that field goal then, yes?
Yes.
Okay. And then the last question for you, since you were just talking about it, is the confidence level also high that Dak will stay upright and will stay healthy this season? Very
much. If his present condition, if the excellent off season he's had, the excellent camp that he's had, feel as good about it as you could possibly feel. And so we just got to do that. The only time in my entire life that I ever went to the sideline, ever, during a ball game, was with Ernie Zampese and Barry Switzer. And we said that we were going to protect Mark Tuinei because Mark Tuinei was injured, and we were going to keep back in and help him make his blocks. And Aikman was your quarterback. We didn't do it early, and Aikman was getting the hell knocked out of it. I went to the sideline and looked at Barry, and I said, guys, roll this clock forward, and you're going to see us going forward for this season without a quarterback. Now, you think we've got problems now. Wait till that happens to us. So let's do like we said we'd do and keep it back in. Help him out. Well, and so that's what we've got to do. We have to do the kinds of things that just common sense tell you to do with that.